Hello, everyone. Thank you, Pax Christi USA leadership, for inviting me to this important gathering at this moment of the history. When the world is confronting a global and serious ethical and humanitarian crisis, Pax Christi USA demands an exercise, a voice of peace, justice, and human rights. My name is Marta Ines Romero, Pax Christi International Secretary General. For 80 years, Pax Christi International has been a peace, Catholic, prophetic movement. Founded in Europe, now as a global movement, Pax Christi continues contributing to a more peaceful world. With a network of over 100 local organizations around the world, Pax Christi addresses the root causes of violent conflicts and their consequences, giving a voice to marginalized local communities in local discussions within decision-making bodies to find context-specific solutions. We are continually asking for humanity. We strongly believe that only through nonviolence we can build a more peaceful world. We are witnessing a new world disorder in which those human civilizational values that bring cohesion to the people and favor international relations are at stake. Exerting power by a few over majorities, prosperity based on obscure businesses and consumerism in which the current transactional diplomacy dictates, give me your critical minerals for my energy transition while I continue polluting with fossil fuels, and I will give you peace. This is not real democracy. Authoritarianism, the restriction of democracy, fake news are the new way of governing the world. We are experiencing a world marked by xenophobia, by the exclusion of thousands and thousands of immigrants and refugees, by the exacerbated affirmation of nationalist values in contempt for the values of others, violently imposing wars. Such attitudes, transformed into public policies, can be a source of complex conflicts, the crescendo of which can even threaten the human species and our common home. There is an interconnectedness of challenges that implies that Pax Christi members around the world are reflecting, analyzing, and acting. First, there is an interconnection between fragility and conflict. The report States of Fragility 2025 emphasizes how conflict and instability can exacerbate existing vulnerabilities and hinder development progress, and how organized global crime continues to destabilize societies by undermining political, economic, and social cohesion, often through violence and corruption. Day by day, we watch in real time the impact of these many types of violence hitting civilians. Second, there is also an interconnection between environmental degradation and its way to exacerbate conflicts and security. Extreme weather and pollution are consistently ranked high in global risk assessments, reflecting a growing awareness of their immediate and long-term impacts on migration, starvation, and exclusion. The UN Climate Change Conference COP30 in Brazil in November will be a key opportunity to address the climate crisis. Pax Christi will be there, and in the side event, the People's Summit, where social movements and civil society organizations will be actively advocating for concrete measures. Third, the multilateralism is questioned these days. The whole island seemed to be on fire, recalls a resident of Providencia Island in my country, Colombia, during Hurricane Iota in 2020. Which destroyed thousands of houses, hospitals, churches, and schools. On the other side of the world, a migrant from South Sudan seeks to escape political instability, humanitarian crisis, and armed conflict. On his way to Europe, he's not allowed to get into a new future, but stopped in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. What do hurricane victims and migrants who face a state lack of protection of their human rights have in common? Part of the tragedy faced by these people is due to the current failures of multilateralism, traditionally understood as cooperation and coordination between multiple actors to address common problems and achieve shared goals. Currently, it faces multiple challenges. What are these challenges and how do we face them from a civil society and peace movement? Fourth, there is an interconnection between politics and businesses. The common good is under suspicion because an elite sees in multilateralism an obstacle to its ambitions. Corporations exercise great power over the foreign policy of many countries and decisions in multilateral spaces such as the United Nations or the European Union. This extremely wealthy privileged group, according to Oxfam's research, has successfully worked on obtaining regulations that favor their businesses, including the sale of weapons to countries such as the State of Israel, despite the atrocities that country continues to commit in Gaza, as it has been recently reported by the UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese. Pope Leo, in his Angelus last Sunday, called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the end of the barbarity of war in the wake of the shelling of the Holy Family Church. In a statement, Pax Christi recent calls on the international community, political and religious, to raise their voices and take urgent action to protect all civilians and humanitarian spaces to enable an immediate and permanent ceasefire and immediate access to humanitarian aid for everyone in Gaza, the release of all hostages, Israeli and Palestinian, a complete arms embargo on Israel, an end to all trade with illegal Israeli settlements, and an end to the Israeli siege on Gaza and the occupation of the West Bank. Fifth, there is a societal crisis of values. Inequality and societal polarization are also significant concerns, potentially leading to further instability and conflict. The rapid technological advancements, including artificial intelligence, also present new risks and challenges that require careful consideration and management related to ethical principles, as Pope Francis remarked in the G7 summit in Italy last year. Vatican Council II suggested that the renewal of religious life involved a return to the original inspiration of communities. Pax Christi USA, 52 years later, continues being a community of peace and civilian resistance. We are responding to secularization and to the need to promote a more assertive role of lay people, maintaining relevance in a rapidly changing world and fostering inclusivity and tolerance. And a relevant action Pax Christi USA is doing with conviction with others to respond to the various challenges, the interreligious dialogues and actions for peace and justice. Amongst these challenges, there is hope. At a time when fear is both real and orchestrated, where the multilateralism is absent, when the ties between politics and businesses are evident to oppressed those fragile states but rich in natural resources, we build bridges to hope, celebrating an abundance of difference among us, of age and culture, ethnicity and religion, gender, experience, and worldview. Pax Christi International has promoted a spirituality rooted in true relationships, with a priority on the most marginalized in our peripheries. And Pax Christi USA honors this long history of commitment every day in every action. We advocate for a nuclear disarmament and campaign for the elimination of nuclear weapons and the promotion of a nuclear-free world. Our world demands strong and conclusive measures to protect life and creation. For Pax Christi, there is no peace without social and ecological justice. All the legacy Pope Francis gave us in Laudato Si, Laudate Deum, and Fratelli Tutti, to strengthening our capacity to transform our planet based on our actions, recognizing the social movement's capacity as a real, vibrant multilateralism from below. You, US citizens, have had the courage to continue building peace, seeking justice, denouncing abuses and discrimination. Conflicts around land, water, and other resources are increasing, and there is a need for comprehensive approaches to conflict transformation through nonviolence. When Pope Leo tells us, Nonviolence as a method and a style must distinguish our decisions, our relationships, and our actions. He speaks about peace, justice, and truth, as we have promoted with the Catholic Nonviolence Initiative, a program with strong roots and ties in the US. This is a way to remarkably expect that his papacy continues Francis' legacy, illuminating our lives and shining light onto our path as faith movement. We accompany indigenous and other vulnerable communities affected by extractives who resist with nonviolent means, seeking environmental sustainability and just, democratic, and inclusive transitions. We are learning with a humble and solidarity commitment about the ways our indigenous and Afro-descendant communities live and the eco-spirituality rooted in their relationship with the Mother Earth in Oklahoma or New Mexico, in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the Andes. We advocate for the rights and dignity of refugees and migrants, promoting community integration and a fairer and more equitable migration policies, and the importance of addressing the structural causes of irregular migration, such as poverty, inequality, and violence. No more repression of nonviolent resistant communities in the US. Forged in the broken relationships of a brutal war, Pax Christi began its journey 80 years ago with a vision based on the gospel, love your enemies, and rooted in a deep belief that reconciliation is possible. Built across geographies and years by people of faith, struggling to make peace in the midst of injustice and war, violence and repression, our movement brings to this moment in history a renewed commitment to make the values we claim to hold real in our lives and in our peace work. We need a new multilateralism based on concrete solutions. The causes of these problems and hence the solutions to them are collective, based on democracy, equity, and solidarity. So what can we do as civil society movements, as Pax Christi USA, as a global movement, to safeguard those multilateral efforts while current powers at a national level threaten them? We need to advocate for the creation of a new model of multilateralism, decolonized, that makes collective bargaining conditions more favorable for those traditionally excluded. For this, civil society must continue demanding ways to actively participate in these spaces, ensuring that these excluded voices reach decision makers. Their messages are essential to guide decisions in multilateral spaces in a direction that prioritizes human rights, the common good, and the most vulnerable populations and social justice. This is what we are doing as active members of the new Foundation Project, an initiative born at the UNESCO NGOs level, not only to strengthening the role of the UN Secretary General and the General Assembly to overcome Security Council deadlocks on critical international peace and security matters, and to promote effective global governance, but also to amplify the voice and influence of NGOs within the UN, ensuring civil society can play a more active role in shaping global decisions. The victims of Hurricane Iota in Colombia, African migrants seeking protection in Europe, and other populations victims of the multiple crises in the world deserve protection, solidarity, and implementation of the rule of law. The definancing of and dismantling of programs such as USAID and other multilateral spaces promoted by many, including the United States, authoritarian leaders, the corporate elite, is a huge challenge. It could be a historic opportunity for the global civil society community to play a more active role in the global order and claim a new model of multilateralism. We need a new moral center in world politics, a new global order rooted in humanity, justice, and collective salvation. Let's continue with energy, with faith, with hope, contributing to a better world, to a better Pax Christi movement. And you, dear US members, are not alone. Your struggle is our struggle. Finally, tonight, I want to join you all in congratulating our young leader, Georgian Hernandez, for the Sister Diana Ortiz OSU Peacemaker Award. Georgian, your commitment with peace and active nonviolence brings the movement with a fresh air. And following Cuban Jose Martí, we say, con todos y para el bien de todos, with all and for the benefit of all. Te mando mi abrazo solidario desde Colombia. Thank you very much.